Sign the papers, Mila. You don't want to make this ugly, do you? Think about our boys. Ethan's words cut through me like a knife, his cruel smirk twisting the face I once loved. I stare at the divorce papers in front of me, my hands trembling as I try to process the betrayal and heartache that have led me to this moment. Just a few years ago, I was a dedicated pediatric nurse, finding fulfillment in my career, but feeling the pressure to settle down as my friends and younger sister started their own families. That all changed when I reconnected with Ethan Hawthorne at a friend's wedding. The groom's charismatic cousin swept me off my feet as we danced, sparks flying between us. Our whirlwind romance led to a quick engagement and a beautiful wedding. I thought I had found my happily ever after, especially when I discovered I was pregnant shortly after. But the cracks in our relationship began to show when the ultrasound revealed we were having twin boys. Ethan seemed distant about the news, but I chalked it up to nerves. My sister Nadia, a successful corporate lawyer, expressed reservations about Ethan's character, but she supported me nonetheless. When our boys, Liam and Lucas, were born healthy, Ethan put on a show of joy for the family, but I could sense his insincerity. At home, the twins' needs overwhelmed Ethan. He stayed out late, claiming work, leaving me alone to care for our babies. One night, I found suspicious texts on his phone from a contact named Jess. When I confronted him, he snatched the phone away, yelling at me for invading his privacy. On extended maternity leave, I struggled to manage the twins and household chores without Ethan's help. He berated me for the messy house and simple meals, with demanding that I cater to his needs despite his lack of support. I suggested couples therapy, but he scoffed, blaming me for our problems and refusing to attend. The final straw came when Ethan arrived home late, reeking of alcohol and perfume. I confronted him about the affair and his neglect of our family. He gaslighted me, calling me paranoid and ungrateful. Then he served me the divorce papers, sneering that I was nothing without him. Shocked and hurt, I signed the papers with shaking hands. I gathered Liam and Lucas, my heart breaking as I realized the family I had dreamed of was crumbling before my eyes. With nowhere else to turn, I took the twins to stay with Nadia. Ethan, enraged by my departure, vowed to destroy me. As I sit in Nadia's guest room, the weight of my shattered dreams pressing down on me, I know I must find the strength to fight for my boys and myself. I cannot let Ethan's cruelty and betrayal define me. With Nadia by my side, I vow to expose the truth and build a better life for Liam, Lucas, and myself, no matter the cost. Ethan and I were married in a beautiful ceremony just a few months after we first met. Our whirlwind romance had been the talk of the town, and I couldn't have been happier as I walked down the aisle, my eyes locked on the man I believed to be my soulmate. Shortly after our wedding, I discovered I was pregnant. Ethan seemed thrilled at first, but his enthusiasm waned when the ultrasound revealed we were having twin boys. 2 at once? That's going to be a handful, he muttered, his brow furrowed. I brushed off his reaction, chalking it up to nerves about the responsibility of fatherhood. My sister Nadia, however, wasn't so easily convinced. I don't like the way he reacted to the news, she confided in me over lunch one day. It's like he's not fully committed to this family. I defended Ethan, assuring Nadia that he was just adjusting to the idea of being a father. He'll come around, I said, placing a hand on my growing belly. He loves me, and he'll love our boys just as much. Nadia pursed her lips, her concern evident. I hope you're right, Mila, but if he ever does anything to hurt you or those babies, he'll have me to answer to. When Liam and Lucas were born, Ethan put on a show of joy for our family and friends who came to visit us in the hospital. He cooed over the babies and posed for pictures, but I couldn't shake the feeling that his happiness was a facade. At home, Ethan's true colors began to show. He grew increasingly impatient with the twins' needs, often leaving me alone to care for them while he stayed out late, claiming to be working. I'm the one providing for this family, he snapped when I confronted him about his absence. You should be grateful I'm working so hard. I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt, but my suspicions grew when I found a string of texts on his phone from a woman named Jess. The messages were flirtatious and suggestive, hinting at a relationship that went beyond the professional. Who is she? I demanded, holding up the phone with a shaking hand. Ethan's face twisted in anger as he snatched the device from my grasp. You have no right to go through my phone, he yelled, his voice rising to a terrifying volume. I'm not doing anything wrong. You're just being paranoid. Tears streamed down my face as I watched him storm out of the room, leaving me alone with our crying babies. I tried to convince myself that he was telling the truth, that I was overreacting, but deep down, I knew our marriage was in trouble. As the weeks turned into months, Ethan's behavior only worsened. He berated me for the state of the house, complaining about the laundry piling up and the simple meals I prepared. "Can't you handle anything?" he sneered, his words cutting me to the core. "I work all day and this is what I come home to?" I suggested couples therapy, desperate to save our marriage, but Ethan scoffed at the idea. "We don't need therapy," he said, rolling his eyes. "You're the one with the problem, not me." I felt myself shrinking under the weight of his cruelty, my self-esteem crumbling with each passing day. I had given up so much for this man, for our family, and now I was left with nothing but the shattered remains of my dreams. But the final blow came on that fateful night when Ethan served me the divorce papers, his smirk a twisted reminder of the love I had once believed in. As I sat in Nadia's guest room, my boys sleeping soundly beside me, I knew I had to find the strength to fight back, not just for myself, but for the innocent lives that depended on me. The day Liam and Lucas were born was supposed to be the happiest of my life. As I held my beautiful baby boys in my arms, I felt a rush of love and protectiveness that I had never experienced before. Ethan stood beside me, a wide grin on his face as he posed for pictures with our newborn sons. But even in that moment of joy, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Ethan's smile seemed too perfect, too practiced, like he was putting on a show for the cameras. When our family and friends left the hospital room, his demeanor changed almost instantly. "You better hope they start sleeping through the night soon," he grumbled, his eyes fixed on his phone screen. "I'm not going to be able to function at work if I'm up all night with crying babies." I tried to brush off his comment, reminding myself that he was just adjusting to the reality of fatherhood. But as we settled into life at home with the twins, Ethan's lack of support became increasingly apparent. Night after night, I found myself alone in the nursery, bouncing fussy babies and changing endless diapers while Ethan stayed out late, claiming to be working. When he did come home, he reeked of alcohol and perfume, stumbling into bed without so much as a goodnight kiss. I confronted him about his behavior one evening, my voice shaking with exhaustion and frustration. "I need your help, Ethan. I can't do this all on my own." He rolled his eyes, his words slurring slightly. "You're their mother, Mila. It's your job to take care of them. I'm the one who has to go out and provide for this family." Tears stung my eyes as I watched him stagger off to bed, leaving me alone once again with our crying sons. I knew I couldn't continue like this, but I didn't know where to turn. That's when I found the texts from Jess. My heart dropped as I scrolled through the flirtatious messages, the suggestive emojis, and late-night meetups. When Ethan caught me with his phone, his reaction was explosive. "You're just a paranoid, ungrateful bitch," he screamed, his face contorted with rage. "I work my ass off for this family, and this is how you repay me? By snooping through my phone and accusing me of cheating?" I tried to stand my ground, but his words cut me to the core. Maybe he was right. Maybe I was just being paranoid. I apologized profusely, promising to trust him more and be a better wife. But even as I said the words, I knew they were a lie. I knew in my heart that Ethan was cheating on me, that he had no interest in being a father to our boys. And yet, I couldn't bring myself to leave him. I had invested so much in this marriage, in this family. I couldn't just walk away. So I stayed, pouring all my energy into caring for Liam and Lucas, while Ethan continued to neglect us. I made excuses for his behavior, convincing myself that he was just stressed from work, that he would come around eventually. But the breaking point came on that fateful night when he served me the divorce papers, his cruel smirk a reminder of all the pain he had inflicted on me. As I sat in Nadia's guest room, my boys sleeping soundly beside me, I knew I had to take action. I picked up my phone and dialed Nadia's number, my hands shaking with a mixture of fear and determination. "I need your help," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I can't let Ethan get away with this. I won't let him destroy our family." Nadia's response was immediate and unwavering. "I'm here for you, Mila. We'll make him pay for what he's done, I promise." As I hung up the phone, I felt a flicker of hope ignite within me. I knew the road ahead would be difficult, but with my sister by my side, I was ready to fight for the life I deserved, for the future my boys deserved. Ethan had no idea what was coming for him. My extended maternity leave felt more like a prison sentence than a blessing. Every day, I found myself drowning in a sea of dirty diapers, spit-up stains, and endless crying. Ethan's absence was a constant ache, a reminder of the support and love I so desperately craved. On the rare occasions he did come home, it was only to criticize and belittle me. "The house is a mess, Mila," he sneered, kicking aside a basket of unfolded laundry. "Can't you manage to keep things clean while I'm out working to support this family?" I bit my tongue, fighting back tears as I tried to explain the challenges of caring for 2 infants on my own. "I'm doing the best I can, Ethan. It's not easy when you're never here to help." He scoffed, rolling his eyes in disgust. "You think my job is easy? I'm out there busting my ass to provide for you and those kids. The least you could do is have dinner ready when I get home." I glanced at the clock, noting that it was well past 9 p.m. "I did have dinner ready, hours ago, but you never came home." Ethan's face twisted in anger, his voice rising to a terrifying volume. "I was working late, Mila. You know how important my job is, but apparently that doesn't matter to you. All you care about is yourself and those damn babies." I recoiled as if he had slapped me, my heart shattering into a million pieces. How could he say such cruel things about our children, about me? I had given up everything for this family, and this was how he repaid me? In a desperate attempt to salvage our marriage, I suggested couples therapy. "Maybe talking to someone could help us work through these issues," I pleaded, my voice trembling. "We can't go on like this, Ethan." He laughed, a cold, harsh sound that sent shivers down my spine. "Therapy? You think some shrink is going to fix this mess? The only problem here is you, Mila. You're weak, pathetic, and ungrateful. I don't need therapy, and I sure as hell don't need you." With that, he stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind him with such force that it rattled the walls. I collapsed onto the couch, sobs racking my body as I tried to process the cruel words he had hurled at me. How had I let things get this bad? How had I allowed myself to be treated like this, to be so utterly broken by the man I had once loved with all my heart? As I sat there, surrounded by the chaos of my life, I knew I had to make a change. I couldn't continue to live like this, to subject my boys to this toxic environment. They deserved better. I deserved better. With shaking hands, I reached for my phone and dialed Nadia's number. "I need your help," I whispered, my voice hoarse from crying. "I can't do this anymore. I need to leave him." Nadia's response was immediate and filled with a fierce protectiveness that brought fresh tears to my eyes. "I'm on my way, Mila. We'll get you and the boys out of there tonight. You're not alone in this." As I hung up the phone, I felt a glimmer of hope for the first time in months. I knew the road ahead would be difficult, that Ethan wouldn't let me go without a fight. But with my sister by my side, I was ready to take on whatever challenges lay ahead. I looked down at my sleeping boys, their innocent faces a reminder of all that I had to fight for. "I'm sorry," I whispered, brushing a gentle kiss across their foreheads. "I'm sorry I let things get this bad, but I promise, from now on, I'll do whatever it takes to keep you safe, to give you the life you deserve." With a newfound sense of determination, I began to pack our bags, ready to leave behind the shattered remains of my marriage and start anew. Ethan had broken me, but he wouldn't break me forever. I was ready to rise from the ashes, stronger than ever before. The night Ethan came home late, reeking of alcohol and another woman's perfume, was the night my world completely shattered. I had been up for hours pacing the living room with a fussy Liam in my arms, while Lucas slept fitfully in his crib. When the front door finally slammed open, I felt a rush of relief, followed immediately by a sinking dread. Ethan stumbled into the room, his eyes bloodshot and his shirt wrinkled. He barely glanced at me as he made his way to the kitchen, rummaging through the fridge for a beer. "Where have you been?" I asked, my voice trembling with a mixture of anger and fear. "I've been trying to call you all night." He shrugged, popping open the can and taking a long swig. "Out. Had some work stuff to take care of," I scoffed, shifting Liam to my other hip. "Work stuff? Is that what you call screwing your secretary these days?" Ethan's head snapped up, his eyes narrowing in fury. "What the hell are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the texts, Ethan, the late nights, the perfume on your clothes. I'm not an idiot." "I know you're cheating on me." He slammed the beer can down on the counter, his face contorting with rage. "You don't know shit, Mila. You're just a paranoid, crazy bitch who can't handle the fact that I have a life outside of changing diapers and wiping snotty noses." Tears stung my eyes as I recoiled from his words, but I refused to back down. I'm not crazy, Ethan. I know what you're doing, and I won't stand for it anymore. I want a divorce. Ethan laughed, a cold, cruel sound that sent shivers down my spine. A divorce? You really think you can leave me? You're nothing without me, Mila. You're just a pathetic, stay-at-home mom with no skills and no prospects. Good luck trying to support yourself and those brats on your own. With that, he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a stack of papers, tossing them onto the coffee table with a sneer. But if that's what you want, then fine. Sign the papers, Mila. I'm done with you and this whole fucking family. I stared at the divorce papers, my heart shattering into a million pieces. How had it come to this? How had the man I loved, the father of my children, become such a monster? With shaking hands, I set Liam down in his playpen and reached for a pen. As much as it hurt, I knew I had to do this. I couldn't let Ethan continue to destroy me, to destroy our family. I signed the papers quickly, my vision blurred with tears. When I was done, I looked up at Ethan, my voice barely above a whisper. I hope you're happy now. You've ruined everything. He smirked, snatching the papers from my hand. I'll be happy when I'm rid of you and those little bastards. Good luck, Mila. You're going to need it. With that, he stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind him with such force that it rattled the walls. I collapsed onto the couch, sobs racking my body as I tried to process what had just happened. How had I let things get this bad? How had I allowed myself to be so utterly broken by the man I had once loved with all my heart? As I sat there, surrounded by the shattered remains of my life, I knew I had to get out. I couldn't stay in this house, in this toxic environment, for a moment longer. With trembling hands, I gathered up Liam and Lucas, packing a few essentials into a diaper bag. Then I called Nadia, my voice hoarse with tears. I need a place to stay. Ethan and we're done. He served me with divorce papers. Nadia's response was immediate and filled with a fierce protectiveness that brought fresh tears to my eyes. Come stay with me, Mila. You and the boys are always welcome here. We'll figure this out together. As I hung up the phone, I felt a glimmer of hope for the first time in months. I knew the road ahead would be difficult, that Ethan wouldn't let me go without a fight. But with my sister by my side, I was ready to take on whatever challenges lay ahead. I looked down at my sleeping boys, their innocent faces a reminder of all that I had to fight for. I'm sorry, I whispered, brushing a gentle kiss across their foreheads. I'm sorry I let things get this bad, but I promise, from now on, I'll do whatever it takes to keep you safe, to give you the life you deserve. With a newfound sense of determination, I gathered up our bags and headed out into the night, ready to leave behind the shattered remains of my marriage and start anew. Ethan had broken me, but he wouldn't break me forever. I was ready to rise from the ashes, stronger than ever before. Nadia's apartment felt like a safe haven after the chaos and heartbreak of my shattered marriage. As I settled the twins into the spare room, I couldn't help but feel a wave of gratitude for my sister's unwavering support. I'm so sorry, Mila, she said, pulling me into a tight hug. I can't believe Ethan would do this to you, to your family. I choked back a sob, burying my face in her shoulder. I don't know what to do, Nadia. He's threatening to take the boys away from me. He says I'm an unfit mother. Nadia pulled back, her eyes blazing with determination. He's not going to get away with this, Mila. We're going to fight him, and we're going to win. Over the next few days, Nadia helped me find a divorce lawyer and gather evidence of Ethan's infidelity and verbal abuse. She even managed to track down his mistress, Jessica, who agreed to testify on my behalf. But Ethan wasn't going down without a fight. He hired a ruthless divorce attorney, a man with a reputation for destroying his opponents in court, and he wasn't afraid to play dirty. I have some news, my lawyer said grimly, sliding a stack of papers across the table. Ethan is seeking full custody of the twins. He's claiming that you're an unstable, unfit mother. I felt like I had been punched in the gut. How could he do this? How could he try to take my boys away from me? Nadia placed a comforting hand on my shoulder, her voice fierce with determination. He's not going to win, Mila. We have the truth on our side, and I'm going to make sure the whole world knows what kind of man Ethan really is. As the court date approached, I felt like I was living in a constant state of fear and anxiety. Every time I looked at Liam and Lucas, I couldn't help but imagine a future where they were ripped away from me, forced to live with a man who had no love for them. But Nadia refused to let me give up hope. She worked tirelessly on my case, gathering evidence and preparing witnesses. And when the day of the trial finally arrived, she was right by my side, holding my hand as we walked into the courtroom. Ethan sat on the other side of the room, his face a mask of cold indifference. But as Nadia presented our case, I could see the cracks beginning to form in his facade. She called witness after witness, each one painting a damning picture of Ethan's character. His mistress, Jessica, took the stand, tearfully admitting to their affair and the cruel way he had spoken about me and the twins. "He said he never wanted kids," she said, her voice trembling. "He said they were just a burden, holding him back from the life he really wanted." I felt a wave of nausea wash over me as I listened to her words. How could I have ever loved a man who saw our children as nothing more than a burden? But the final nail in Ethan's coffin came when Nadia presented the judge with a stack of financial documents, proving that he had been hiding assets and lying about his income in an attempt to avoid paying child support. The judge's face hardened as he reviewed the evidence, his voice cold with contempt. "Mr. Hawthorne, it is clear to me that you have no regard for the well-being of your children or the sanctity of your marriage vows. I am granting Mrs. Nowak full custody of the twins, as well as generous child support payments to ensure their future stability." Ethan's face contorted with rage as the verdict was read, his fists clenching at his sides. "You'll pay for this," he hissed, his eyes locked on mine. "Both of you. I'll make sure of it." But as I walked out of the courtroom, my boys in my arms and my sister by my side, I knew that his threats held no power over me anymore. I had won. I had taken back my life, my dignity, and my future, and I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, I would face them with the same strength and determination that had carried me through the darkest moments of my life. Ethan had tried to break me, but he had only made me stronger. And I was ready to show the world just how unbreakable I really was. The courtroom battle had been brutal, but in the end, justice prevailed. As the judge announced his decision granting me full custody of Liam and Lucas and ordering Ethan to pay generous child support, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. It was finally over. I had won. But Ethan wasn't ready to accept defeat. As we walked out of the courthouse, he lunged towards me, his face contorted with rage. "You think you've won?" he snarled, his voice dripping with venom. "You haven't seen anything yet. I'll destroy you, Mila. I'll make sure you never see those brats again." Nadia stepped between us, her eyes flashing with anger. "Back off, Ethan. You've lost. It's time for you to accept it and move on." But Ethan wasn't listening. He shoved Nadia aside, his hands reaching for me. "You're nothing without me, Mila. You're just a pathetic worthless." Before he could finish his sentence, a security guard grabbed him by the arm, pulling him away from me. "That's enough, sir. I'm going to have to ask you to leave." Ethan struggled against the guard's grip, his eyes never leaving mine. "This isn't over, Mila. I'll make you pay for what you've done. I swear it." As he was dragged away, I felt a shiver run down my spine. I knew Ethan wasn't one to make idle threats. He would stop at nothing to get his revenge, but I refused to let fear control me. I had come too far, fought too hard, to let him win now. With Nadia by my side, I knew I could face whatever challenges lay ahead. Over the next few weeks, I focused on rebuilding my life. I found a small apartment for the boys and me, started looking for a job, and began the process of healing from the trauma of my marriage. But even as I tried to move forward, I couldn't shake the feeling that Ethan was still out there, plotting his next move. And I was right. One evening, as I was putting the twins to bed, I heard a knock at the door. Assuming it was Nadia, I opened it without checking the peephole, but instead of my sister's smiling face, I found myself staring into the cold, calculating eyes of Ethan's divorce attorney. "Mrs. Nowak," he said, his voice smooth as silk. "I'm afraid I have some bad news. Your ex-husband has filed an appeal claiming that the judge's decision was biased and unfair. He's seeking to overturn the custody ruling and have the boys placed in his care." I felt my heart drop to my stomach, my hands trembling at my sides. But he can't do that. The judge's decision was final." The lawyer smirked, his eyes glinting with malice. "Nothing is ever final in family court, Mrs. Nowak, and with my help, your ex-husband is confident that he can convince the court to see things his way." I slammed the door in his face, my mind racing with panic. How could this be happening? How could Ethan still have the power to hurt me, even after everything he had done? I called Nadia immediately, my voice shaking with fear. "He's trying to take the boys away from me, Nadia. He's filed an appeal." There was a moment of silence on the other end of the line, followed by a string of colorful curses. "That bastard! He just doesn't know when to quit." What are we going to do, Nadia? I can't lose my boys. I can't. You're not going to lose them, Mila. I won't let that happen. Nadia's voice was fierce with determination. I've been doing some digging into Ethan's past, and I think I may have found something that could help us. Something big. I felt a flicker of hope ignite in my chest. What is it? I can't say too much over the phone, but let's just say that Ethan's not as squeaky clean as he'd like everyone to believe. And with the right evidence, we can make sure that he never comes near you or the boys again. As I hung up the phone, I felt a sense of renewed strength coursing through my veins. Ethan may have thought he had the upper hand, but he had underestimated the power of a mother's love. And with Nadia by my side, I knew that I would stop at nothing to protect my children, no matter what the cost. Nadia's revelation about Ethan's shady past had given me a glimmer of hope, but I knew that taking him down wouldn't be easy. He was a master manipulator, always one step ahead of the game. But Nadia was determined to uncover the truth. She hired a private investigator, a former cop with a reputation for getting results, and what he found was even worse than I could have imagined. Ethan's been involved in some pretty sketchy business deals, Nadia told me, her face grim. Money laundering, tax fraud, you name it. He's been using his company as a front for illegal activities for years. I felt sick to my stomach as I listened to the details. How could I have been so blind? How could I have married a man capable of such deceit? But Nadia wasn't finished. There's more, she said, her voice trembling with anger. He's been embezzling money from his clients, stealing from the very people who trusted him with their investments. I closed my eyes, fighting back tears. What are we going to do, Nadia? How can we prove any of this? Nadia's eyes flashed with determination. We're going to take this evidence to the authorities. We're going to make sure that Ethan pays for his crimes. And that's exactly what we did. Nadia compiled a dossier of evidence, including financial records, witness statements, and incriminating emails. She handed it over to the FBI, who launched a full-scale investigation into Ethan's business dealings. It didn't take long for the truth to come out. Ethan was arrested and charged with multiple counts of fraud, embezzlement, and money laundering. His assets were frozen, his company was shut down, and he was facing the possibility of decades in prison. I watched the news coverage of his arrest with a mix of relief and sadness. A part of me still couldn't believe that the man I had once loved was capable of such evil. But another part of me knew that he had brought this upon himself. He had chosen greed and power over his own family, and now he was paying the price. With Ethan behind bars, I was finally able to move on with my life. I focused on my children, pouring all of my love and energy into giving them the stable, happy home they deserved. I went back to work as a pediatric nurse, finding joy and purpose in helping others. And as the years passed, I found myself thinking less and less about Ethan. He was a distant memory, a cautionary tale of what could happen when you let darkness into your heart. But even as I moved forward, I knew that I would never forget the lessons I had learned. I would never again let anyone treat me the way Ethan had. I would never again compromise my own happiness for the sake of someone else's ego. I was stronger now, wiser. I had survived the worst that life could throw at me, and I had come out the other side a better person for it. And then, one day, a letter arrived in the mail. It was from Ethan, written from his prison cell. I hesitated before opening it, my hands shaking with a mix of fear and curiosity. Inside, I found a single sheet of paper, covered in Ethan's familiar scrawl. Mila, it read. I know that I have no right to ask for your forgiveness. I know that I have caused you and our children unimaginable pain, but I want you to know that I am sorry. I am sorry for everything. I read the words over and over again, tears streaming down my face. A part of me wanted to believe him, to think that maybe, just maybe, he had changed. But I knew better now. I knew that Ethan's words were just that, words. They couldn't erase the damage he had done, the lives he had destroyed. I crumpled the letter in my fist and tossed it in the trash. I didn't need Ethan's apologies. I didn't need his remorse. I had everything I needed right here, in the smiling faces of my children, in the love and support of my family and friends. I had risen from the ashes of my broken marriage, stronger and more determined than ever before. And no matter what challenges lay ahead, I knew that I would face them with my head held high, secure in the knowledge that I was unbreakable.